Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Egelhoff, and I am the MFamily Program Manager here at the University of Michigan, which means that I manage the Parent and Family Engagement Program. Welcome to the webinar Supporting Student Belonging. We're excited to have you here, and we have some staff from various units in student life to talk to you about belonging here at the university. So again, my name is Rachel. I will have my colleagues introduce themselves as well. I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items. First is that we will be using the Q&A feature at the bottom or maybe top of your Zoom screen. So if you have a question, please enter it into the Q&A. And then at the end, we will be compiling the questions to ask of our presenters, and they will answer as many as we can get to tonight. If we don't get to your question tonight, we will be emailing all of the questions and answers out to you after the presentation. We will also send you the slides, so don't feel like you need to be taking screenshots or writing everything down. Again, we will send that all out to you after the conversation. And with that, I am going to turn it over to the first person on my screen, which is Hope.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hope Amayo. I am the lead manager for student programs at the Center for Campus Involvement. So we're all about getting your students connected and plugged into finding their community here on campus.
Nicole?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you all tonight. I'm Nicole Banks. I'm one of the Associate Deans of Students, and I work most closely with parent and family engagement. Thank you all for being here. I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Beckett, and I work as a Senior Program Manager in Michigan Housing's Community Connections and Engagement Department. My portfolio specifically is working with the multicultural lounges within each of our residential communities. Thank you for being here. I'll pass it to the other Elizabeth.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So glad that you are here. My name is Elizabeth Gonzalez. I go by Liz or Eli, she, they pronouns, and I am the Educational Engagement Program Manager at the Spectrum Center. And then last but not least, I will toss it over to Saj.
Hi, everyone. My name's Saj. I'm the MFamily Program Graduate Assistant, and I will be taking care of compiling your questions today, so we'll get those to you.
Okay, I'm hoping that everyone can see my screen. I just started sharing my screen. Again, my name is Rachel, and for those of you who are just joining, please use the Q&A feature to ask any questions you may have during the webinar. We will try to answer as many questions as we can. Also, at the end, within the next week, we will send out the slides, the question and answers, and our webinars are always recorded and posted on our YouTube channel, so you will receive links for that as well. And with that, I will go ahead and get started. This is a list of your presenters. Again, you'll receive the slides, so you don't have to write anything down. But thank you all for being here this evening. I was mentioning earlier that in Michigan, it is a balmy 16 degrees right now. So we are all happily home and hopefully warm. I hope it's nicer where most of you are. And again, use the Q&A tool to ask questions of our participants, please. We want to provide an overview of belonging at University of Michigan and what that looks like. We want you to know some of the resources available so that you can help support your student. And we want to allow you time to ask questions of our very knowledgeable staff, either about experiences or resources or programs that may help you guide your student. We typically like to invite any and all of our units to share. Of course, we're limited by time and people. So I wanted to share a couple of things with you. One is that there are some resources on campus who couldn't present tonight. And so I'm going to give you a quick overview of these resources. Still feel free to ask questions. We will do the best we can to answer them. Also, you'll notice that at the bottom of each little blurb is the website for that unit or that program. So feel free to visit those websites for more information. The first one I want to call to attention is fraternity and sorority life chapters. So fraternity and sorority life at the University of Michigan is very popular. Right now, we have over 5,500 students who are members of a chapter, and that is a great way to find a place of belonging at the university. Uh, Fraternity and sorority life sort of crosses many units and many lives of many students. And so fraternity and sorority life has actually presented already twice during some of our previous webinars. If you haven't caught them, again, you can look at those on the YouTube channel. And that they talked a little bit more about the process of recruitment and housing, expectations, and those sorts of things. So if your student is involved in joining a fraternity or sorority, you can find a lot more information on their website. And there was a wealth of information shared in our housing webinar. So you could look at that on the MFamily YouTube channel to find that information as well. Another is Trotter Multicultural Center, which supports a focus on intersectional liberation and intercultural collaboration. The center focuses on engagement, racial healing, and transformative development. They are located on State Street and open to all students, so students can check them out on the website or go in and speak with staff there. The Office of Multi-Ethnic Student Affairs, or MESA as we call it, is another one of our centers of belonging, which provides support and belonging through cultural celebrations, education, and building social capital. They are also located in the Union, and they are on the third floor. The International Center, their mission is to provide services and programs for our diverse community, our diverse international community at the University of Michigan. We do have many, many international students, and the International Center specializes in supporting them, whether it's through health insurance needs or adjusting to campus belonging, how to find their place here at Michigan. So that's a great resource for our students who have some of them have traveled very far to be here. I'm gonna go back one. I think I skipped one. Blaven Scholars is a program that we have for students, undergraduate students who have experienced foster care, kinship care, or are navigating their journey independently without the support of parents or guardians. So if you're supporting a student or helping a student or know a student that may fit that criteria, please check out the Blaven Scholars website, gather more information for students who qualify there. And then we have a student program for first-gen students. So students who, they are a first-generation college student. We want to make sure that they have access to resources and knowledge to take advantage of those resources while they are here. And then my last slide is the Dean of Students Office. So the Dean of Students Office typically helps students navigate any challenges that they are experiencing on campus, whether that is a roommate conflict, or they aren't sure where to find housing, or they're not sure how to get to their first day of class, all the way up into a full-blown emergency hospitalization, something like that. So if your student is navigating any challenges on campus and you don't know where to send them, and they don't know where to start, this is a great place for them to start. And even if the Dean of Students Office isn't the place for them, they will help them get where they needed to be, and they will also make sure that they are engaged with the resources that they need. So they won't just tell them to go to another building. They will make sure that they get there, that they connect with people, and that they have the resources they need. Again, all of this information will be shared with you after the presentation. And with that, I am going to turn it over to the next part of our presentation, which is Hope.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Alrighty, so we are going to break into the Center for Campus Involvement. We are located in the Michigan Union as well on floor 3M, which can only be you can only make it there by the courtyard or Sweetwater elevator. So just approach up in case your student ever needs to come up and see us, whether that's for student organization help or anything else. We are always welcome and happy to see students there. So whether that's through campus partners or student organizations, we're really just trying to be a hub for your student to be able to navigate campus. So within that, we will go ahead and jump into some different ways that we can. So by the numbers, we have over 1,700 student organizations. It is really just a prime way for students to be able to get involved. And what's great about this is that if there isn't a student organization that fits maybe the specific interest or hobby that maybe your student was really held on to throughout the years, we can help them create their own student organization. So that is pretty awesome. So that's one bucket of ways that you can get involved, but the other is actually going to be through our student events and programs. We actually put on, with our whole team, about 200 different programs, which mix across variations to make sure we're meeting the students' needs. So within that, on the next slide, here's a little bit of information about how to attend a program. So we really try to make sure we cater to all audiences, right? So we have very large late night UMix takeovers where we take over the union, the Michigan Union, Pierpont Commons, and the Michigan League with all sorts of different fun activities from indoor rollerblading, laser tag, arcades, crafts, and kind of everything in between. But then we also try to do more smaller pop-up programs for those students who may not want or who may feel a little overwhelmed in those very large spaces. What's also nice is we have within those organizations, we actually sponsor 17 sponsored student organizations within our University Activity Center that puts on tons of different productions, performances. They have art shows, all sorts of different things to get your students involved in. Next slide, please. So with that being said, with having over 1,700 student organizations, and I'm not even actually exaggerating on that if you'd be surprised to hear, they really range from anywhere from academic interest to performance arts, activism, and even I think squirrel finding clubs. I think I've heard 6 of them. So nevertheless, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming of where do I even start. So if you actually see this QR code at the bottom right of your screen, that's going to take you to this hub that all of our student organizations live on called Maze Pages. With that being said, you can also schedule one-to-one involvement drop-ins. So if Maze Pages is looking a little too overwhelming with all the features and filters and all of that, you can go ahead and have your student make an appointment with us in our involvement drop-in, which is a peer-to-peer led meeting, and they will help your student get plugged in. Which also leads us to our fest. This is, you'll see in the pictures, our Festive Fall, which takes place in the summertime, but for our upcoming Winterfest, yes, sorry, my apologies. For our upcoming Winterfest, that will be in the Michigan Union on Monday and the January 12th and Tuesday, the January 13th from 4 to 7 p.m. And then on North Campus, we also offer another Winterfest that's more focalized on the student organizations around engineering, the arts, and a little bit of everything that lives in those spaces. It's not that they won't share, student organizations at different ones, but with how many organizations we have and only 900 spots across the 3 sessions, we try to make sure we can reach everybody. And next slide, please. The other part that can be really incredibly helpful to get kind of plugged in, and we often see, when students get on campus, they're feeling very overwhelmed. Joining a welcome program actually is a great opportunity for your student who may not know anybody to walk right in and feel super welcome by a lot of other students who also don't know anybody. So this winter semester, we will be featuring our winter welcome from January 8th through the 16th. That will include that Winterfest, like I mentioned, as well as some late night takeovers, some smaller croco and crafts, and maybe even some movie nights and other things in between. Next slide, please. With that being said, I know you're going to have a lot of information thrown at you this evening. So we'd love to hear from you. Any questions, or if you want to do any outreach for your students, I highly recommend if they have social media with Instagram, the @UMich Unions. It's a really great space to go ahead and stay up to date with all the different events and things that are happening within the union spaces. So for that, thank you so much. And we have a, I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, hello again. My name, as a refresher, my name is Elizabeth Beckett, and I work in Michigan Housing Community Connections and Engagement Department. I'm going to be sharing a brief overview of our department, as well as going into some of our resources and services that navigate and support belonging with our students. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So Michigan Housing, this is Michigan Housing's mission. We're committed to providing a safe, inclusive, and supportive living experience for residents of all identities within the residential community. Although I'm going to be focusing specifically on the student experience and belonging within the residence halls, we also have a lot of events that are open to all students, regardless if they live in the residence halls with us. Next slide, please. So specifically our work in the department, Community Connections and Engagement Department, we aim to provide and help support creating welcoming homes for residents. You know, this is their home away from home. And our goal is to ensure that every resident can call Michigan Housing home, a place where they can be honored and celebrated for who they are, and also have the opportunity to learn alongside people that may be different from themselves or share similarities, and engage in fostering that connection and belonging together within a community experience. And also that's something that we all play a part in, staff included, to build that community that supports students' academic success and their ability to thrive with us on campus. All right. So this is an overview of some of our leadership opportunities for students, as well as some of our services. We have about almost 60 student staff that work with us in various capacities, and they play a really large role in fostering belonging within communities, within the residential communities, and highlight a lot of that programming. So one of those groups is the diversity peer educators. We also have a wonderful opportunity for students looking to get involved directly within their residential community. They can join the Multicultural Council. It's a great way to meet new people, get involved in putting on programming with others. And we have a multicultural housing community. So if your student is already with us on campus, this was an option before in the fall semester that people can apply to. And then our services, we have a staff of about 12 professional staff. The Multicultural Lounge program, which is something that I help support and oversee. We also provide residential climate support, housing accommodations, and we have other community connection and engagement spaces that students can engage with. All right, this is a little look into our programming model and the five petals of our flower to connect and engage with students through programming. So we want to create vibrant, inclusive residential communities where everyone feels that they belong and are connected with through meaningful engagement. So those five drivers of our programming are belonging, well-being, community connection, history and legacy, and inclusion. All right. As I mentioned, I'm going to share a little bit more about our diversity peer educators who are our live-in student staff. So all residential buildings have a diversity peer educator that supports their community. in some of our larger residence halls, such as South Quad, West Quad, East Quad, I'm missing one, Markley, and Bursley as well, that have larger residential populations. We have more than one diversity peer educator, but these are our live-in student staff who support a largely first-year population to create a sense of belonging and opportunities for students to engage with one another. They participate and coordinate Heritage Month programming. They also help to provide guidance to the multicultural councils and help advise them with programming. And that's one of the ways that the DPEs build some leadership. And also sometimes if students are feeling maybe a lack of belonging in the community, the diversity peer educators sometimes help and step in to make those connections. And it's helpful to have someone that a resident may know to bring them into the community in various ways. And I'll mention this a couple of times, but all of our both staff organized and student organized events can be found on our Happenings at Michigan page, which is a great resource to find not just our events, but events across campus for folks. All right, multicultural councils, as I have alluded to a bit, they are a student organization, and each residential community has this as an opportunity for students to get involved with. Again, they're guided by the diversity peer educators, and they really help to foster a sense of community, belonging, and engagement within those councils. They organize events that aim to celebrate diversity. This week on Tuesday, we hosted our annual Holiday on the Hill celebration that highlights different holidays, celebrations, and cultural events that typically happen around the winter months. And so it was an opportunity for students to learn about cultures that maybe they don't know a lot about, and engage in some holiday fun. And then really one of the things I want to highlight about the multicultural councils is it's a really great way for students to get involved in a kind of early leadership development of skills. We also have a retreat for the multicultural councils. So it's a great early way for students to develop those leadership skills, to connect with their peers, and then be able to do other things during their time on campus. All right. One of the really important things that our department does is we are really committed to building an inclusive community for all residents of all identities. And one of the key ways that we do this is through our framework to support the residential experience and residential climate within or across campus. So that starts with reporting. So sometimes students may not feel like they belong on campus, or they're having difficulty fitting in, or they've maybe been impacted by something. So we encourage students to reach out to people in their community. Could be a diversity peer educator, could be their resident assistant or hall director, to let someone know that they've experienced something that has impacted their experience on campus. And we do this while also upholding freedom of speech, expression, and association, and following those guidelines very as we should be doing. And then also engaging with support after something is reported to us, and also providing education and resources. We work really closely with various offices across campus to help navigate situations and connect students to resources and break down some of those barriers for students. Our team also provides support with housing accommodations for residents. We coordinate accommodations for health and disability considerations, as well as religious observances for students. And one of our partners that we work closely with for housing accommodations is is Services for Students with Disabilities, or SSD. They review a lot of the documentation that is required for these accommodations. And then once we receive notice that it has been approved by SSD, our team kind of works on next steps to implement those accommodations. And if this is something that your student needs, the email right there is really important to make note of. It's hsg-accommodations@umich.edu. Another aspect of housing accommodations is gender inclusive housing. So we have gender inclusive housing options across campus to ensure that our residential community can be positive, respectful, and inclusive for all residents. And our department works closely with the Spectrum Center as well, specifically for the gender inclusive living experience community. And also providing, we often include the Spectrum Center's events in our newsletters as well, to highlight the great events and support that the Spectrum Center provides. And as I mentioned, there are gender inclusive living options available across campus. My area, so we have many multicultural engagement spaces across campus. They often are our main areas where we are hosting events for residents. Our offices for professional staff are primarily located at the Connector, but it is also a student space. I know Nicole often meets with the Dean of Students Advisory Council in some of our spaces. So the Connector specifically. But the hours, it's open Monday through Sunday with a little bit of a variation in hours. I've definitely seen an uptick in students in our space as we near finals week. So it's a great place to study either in a group or solo as well. We currently have 16 multicultural lounges located in the residence halls across campus. Nearly every residence hall does have a multicultural lounge. Some of our smaller communities don't, though. These are open daily, Monday through Sunday, from 10 a.m. to midnight. Again, these are really wonderful places for students to engage in some of the history of the University of Michigan, while also making connections to others, and or just taking a minute for themselves in a beautiful place to study. And finally, we have, sorry, Rachel. Finally, we have 4 reflection rooms across in 4 of our different spaces. I do want to highlight that there are several other reflection rooms across campus, like in Trotter and the Trotter Multicultural Center and in the Union. These spaces are just specifically managed by housing, but they can be utilized for prayer, for meditation, quiet reflection, or perhaps even an online therapy appointment. All right, thanks, Rachel. And lastly, just want to touch on our You Belong Here campaign. So the You Belong Here campaign is kind of our call to action to invite residents and staff as well to demonstrate their commitment to building inclusive communities and being a part of the community, to learn from one another, and to be compassionate towards others. You can change slides when you get a minute, Rachel. And so we have a little tagline here during move-in. If you were around, you may have seen the bee kind of theme around campus or around the residence halls, Buzz This Way. So our tagline is to be the Michigan difference, to be aware, to be inclusive, and to be kind to one another. So it's a little bit of a reminder to us all within the community, and you can connect with us at connectandengage@umich.edu. And then to kind of round everything off for the Community Connections and Engagement Office, we have a couple of events across campus. You can go to the next slide. So we hope that students are able to engage with us at events across campus. I mentioned earlier we have a Happenings at Michigan page that lists all of the events that are largely hosted by our student staff. So that is linked there when you get a hold of the slides. But a couple of things happening around campus this weekend. Self-care and succulents in Mojo is tomorrow. Cookies, cocoa, and crunch time at Bursley if you are up on North Campus, and coloring in community at the Connector, which is located in West Quad right by the Union. So thank you so much for your time. And again, here is our email, connectandengage@umich.edu. We also have an Instagram page where you can follow along for events and opportunities that are upcoming from our department. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad that, again, as I mentioned, I'm so glad that you all are here, as we are all very excited to share this information with you all. So welcome to the Spectrum Center. Next slide, please. So the Spectrum Center was founded in 1971, and it was the first gender and sexuality center on a college campus in the US. We are coming up on our 55th anniversary, and we are already starting to make plans and get a committee going. So we're super excited about that. The Spectrum Centers we are a resource center dedicated to serving and supporting U of M community with a focus on gender and sexuality. And it is through education, research, and community building that the center works to enhance campus experiences, increase belonging, and help students thrive. Our hope for new students is that the center becomes a home away from home, so a place where students can find friends, get support, and learn more about themselves and others. Our office is on the third floor of the Michigan Union, so students will always see that banner outside of our office. Next slide. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but we tend to have some evening availability as well. And mostly that's because students reserve this space. So they may be studying, they may be having a student organization meeting. We also have a few sponsored student organizations that we provide space for. At our office, there's quite a few things that students can get out of visiting us. So we have computers, printers. Students, as I mentioned earlier, students can reserve a space for their student org, get a short tour of our office, request assistance finding resources, getting connected to resources. We're so lucky that also on the third floor, as Rachel mentioned earlier, the Dean of Students office. So when a student comes in, if there are some questions or distress, right, we support to the best of our knowledge. And part of that knowledge also means walking a student over to the Dean of Students office for more support, more ongoing support. We also have an essential needs corner. So if students need things like socks, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, makeup, so we do have an area where students can come and grab that, grab any of the items that they need, and all of that is free. Students can also read a book, play a board game. We also have a Switch, take a nap. We have a very comfy couch and a lot of blankets. And study. So studying is always a good thing. Next slide. So a little bit more in this next few slides, I'll talk a little bit more about how we support student belonging. So how we do that is, as I mentioned earlier, through education, research, and community building. And our areas of work fall under educational programs, events and programs, support services, and wellness. And each of these program areas are led by professional staff and supported by our student staff. So we do also have jobs for students who are both work study eligible, and also jobs for students who do not have work study. We've had quite a few. I've been there for 7 years. I've been at the Spectrum Center for 7 years, and we've had a handful of students who have started working with us their freshman year. And yeah, we've had two who just like finished their master's program, so worked with us for 6 years, which is really a beautiful thing to witness. So as I say, we really do want to be a home away from home for our students, and to be able to see some of our student staff and like how they grow and develop. And it really truly is one of my most favorite things is working alongside our student staff. Next slide, please. And so under the umbrella of our educational program, so this is the area that I lead, we have a web course that's available to all faculty, staff, and students at all three of the campuses. So this is Introduction to LGBTQIA2S+ Communities and Identities. So it is a web course. It takes about 45 minutes to get through. And really a lot of it is about history of LGBTQ+ communities, some language about connected to LGBTQ+ communities. And then we also have our Pronouns 101 workshop. So this is a place where we support people in increasing their knowledge, and also provide some tools and resources in support of LGBTQ+ people. And then our Queer and Trans Research Symposium. So I'm super happy to announce that we will be hosting this for the second time. That'll happen in March. And one of the additions to this year's symposium is that our undergraduate students also have access to participate by presenting posters of research that maybe they've been working on. And our graduate students and professional students can also present their posters and research that they've been doing. So it gives them some experience of what it would look like if they took their work to a conference. Next slide, please. All right, and then we also celebrate LGBT History Month, so every October. So we typically host a keynote presenter who could be an artist, a writer, or a scholar who teaches us about the beginning and ongoing impact of the LGBTQ+ movement. In November, during Trans Awareness Month, we honor the lives of trans people who have died in the last year due to anti-trans violence with a nationally recognized program. Really, it's an internationally recognized program called Trans Day of Remembrance. And lastly, our Pride Month. So while Pride Month is typically June, we celebrate it in April because that is when we have the most students on campus, right? Students tend to go off to internships and study abroads in the summer. And our Pride Month, so our two signature events is Pride Prom. And this is 100% planned by our students who are on the Spectrum Center programming board. And the other event that we host during Pride Month is our Lavender graduation, which started at the University of Michigan in 1995. Next slide. Okay, and then our another area of our work is student engagement and belonging. So in an effort to support students' sense of belonging, we host some annual events such as the QT BIPOC Welcome, specifically for graduate students. We have mixers, again, for people to come to our center, meet us, get to know the space, and meet each other. We also host LGBT and QT BIPOC Kickback. So LGBT is hosted at our center, and this is a space where we provide snacks and tea, and students can come and take a break with us. And of course, meet other people. We usually do some icebreakers. And then the QT BIPOC kickbacks are monthly gatherings where students can, again, drop by, enjoy some food and fun. Next slide. And then under our area of support services and wellness, so our goal is to ensure that students have the support they need to thrive on campus. So we provide a variety of support services and referrals to resources outside of the center. So these are some examples of events that we have hosted. So the roadmap to gender affirming healthcare, it brings together therapists, doctors, insurance providers, to educate participants about the process of seeking gender affirming services. Another event that we host, it's called In a Bind, Let's Do It Safety. So we bring a professional who teaches students about best practices for safely binding. We also provide trans tape and binders in our office for free. And the last event we host is the clothing closet. So we do this once a semester. I believe we started this 3 years ago. And this has been one of our events that has grown so much every year. So the amount of donations that come in have increased significantly every time we host this. So we just wrapped up our one for the fall. And I mean, it was really amazing. A lot of donations, a lot of students coming through, and it's very satisfying to see students come in and like try something on and like model and say like, oh, like this makes me feel really great. I love this blouse or this dress or whatever it is that they found in the clothing closet that makes them feel authentically themselves. Next slide. And then resources and funding. So we are incredibly grateful to donors and alumni who have generously contributed funding to support students' participation to improve campus climate and ensure that their basic needs are being met. So we provide resources in our office, as I mentioned earlier, gender affirming garments, and we also administer routine funding opportunities such as our essential needs grant. So this grant supports students experiencing hardships related to gender and or sexuality. Students are able to request up to $500 in essential needs funding per semester. Scholarships, so we have named in honor of Chris Armstrong and John D. Evans. So these alumni have generously contributed funding to support students' participation in otherwise like unpaid opportunities. So think study abroad, for example. And then lastly, we have project grants. So this funding supports projects created by individuals and or recognized student organizations that focus on making campus a better place. So last year, again, thanks to the generous funding of our alumni, we awarded $68,000 in grants and scholarships. So we're really, again, super grateful to donors and the project grants that have come through, the like brilliant ideas that students come to us, the brilliant ideas that students have that come to us, like I need support to pull this event off. It's really amazing to see their brilliance and their creativity. So again, just a fun part of the work that I get to do. And then within making connections, so we do have Spectrum Center groups. So earlier when I said like our office, like while we close at 5, we do have quite a few things happening after 5. And those are events and meeting spaces like Fresh Spectives. So Fresh Spectives is a social group for LGBTQIA2S plus first year and transfer undergrads. So it focuses again on building community, um, increasing their knowledge of campus resources. Some of our social activities have included ice skating, pumpkin painting, making tie-dye blankets, and activities vary by cohort. So many of the events also include free food and swag. The next program is called Community Connections. So this creates space for people with similar identities to gain support and empowerment from one another while building a community and collective resources. So these are offered as drop-in and they are peer-led. The ones for this academic school year are a community connection space for ACE Aero students, a second one for QT BIPOC students, a third one for trans and non-binary students, and lastly, one for queer and trans graduate students. And then we have the Spectrum Center Programming Board. So this is the programming board that I mentioned earlier. This group of students, usually it's a group of 8 to 12 students that they host 4 events a year. And the one that they host that is their signature event is Pride Prom. So 100% they are planning this wonderful event. The programming board, it is application based. We do have peer facilitators. So for all of these programs, Fresh Perspectives, Community Connections, Spectrum Center Programming Board, they are peer facilitated, and we do, this is a position, this is a job opportunity for students as well. So they do get paid for this work. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of events. So as I mentioned, the programming board, they put on 4 events a year. And these are some of the events that they have hosted. So the prom theme a couple years ago was Under the Sea. For Trans Awareness Month, they had a readathon and the Queer Art Showcase. So we just had that in October, and I believe this was our fourth time doing that. We've partnered with the with stamps, and I think we're thinking that this is going to be one of those signature events moving forward. And then next slide. So the other thing that we offer, right, student organizations, this programming board is a student organization that we sponsor out of the center, but we also guide and direct our students to the over 200 plus student organizations that I believe Hope mentioned earlier. And so a lot of these organizations tend to be like interest-based. So it could be like dancing or singing. It could be, tennis, right? It could be really anything. I feel like at U of M, if there's something that you're interested in, you will find more students on this campus who also have a similar interest. And then there are also academic-based student organizations. So the QT Research Symposium that I mentioned earlier, it is co-sponsored by Out in STEM and Out MD. So we collaborate a lot with our students, student organizations on campus, and then our other campus partners, such as like the Gender Inclusive Living Experience and MESA, the Multi-Ethnic Student Affairs Office. They are our neighbor, so we share a lot of space and opportunities for co-sponsoring big events. Oh, which that reminds me that our big event for Pride Month this April is that we will be hosting Roxanne Gay on campus. So we're super excited about that. And this is my last slide. I forgot to add the slide with our contact information, but you can find us easily, Spectrum Center at U of M. And thank you so much. If we can help you with anything or answer any questions for you, like feel free to call us or email us, reach out. We're here. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. As I mentioned, we will answer any questions that you have. So if there are remaining questions and you haven't yet entered them into the Q&A, please do so now. And I will turn it over to Saj and Nicole.
Thank you. And thank you again to our colleagues for being here to share information tonight. I think clearly you've done a very thorough job and things have been very clear. We just have a couple questions at this time. Well, there's one in particular, but I would invite each of you to talk about the topic of mentorship as it relates to students who are not comfortable yet showing up to events where they don't know other people. Can you talk about your experiences and what each of your programs may suggest? Let's start with Hope.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I think this is a fantastic question and something that we find quite often, especially in the beginning of the year where students are really starting to get their foot in the water. Like, where is my community? Where do I belong? You know, it's one of the hardest things. And so it's a multifaceted question. We don't necessarily have within our department a peer mentoring partnership for programs, but I do think it's a great idea. But one thing I will say though is that we really try, our programs are planned and run by our student staff. And so one of the things that we really try to train them on is noticing, you know, who's around, what's going on, and everything in between. So, you know, if they see a student sitting by themselves or kind of like hesitating of whether they want to come, we've kind of talked to them a little bit about being able to go and introduce themselves and kind of bring them into the space, connect them with others, which has been really helpful. And I will say the amount of times that I myself, even as a staff member, has touched base with students, they ended up walking in by themselves, but leaving with a crew of people. So always welcome to help out in that capacity.
I'll jump in. I figured you'd maybe going there next, Nicole. So yeah, I echo a lot of what Hope shared as well, that I think that this is something that a lot of our students face or may kind of be navigating right now, especially as we head into, there's not as many like welcoming programs, so it may be out of the time when it's like a meet and greet type event. But so we have kind of approached some of our programming to happen at a lot of different levels. So some of our programs are a lot smaller. So if students feel more comfortable in a smaller group, instead of, I mentioned Holiday on the Hill, which is, we had like over 100 students at that event, like that can be really intimidating. But a lot of our programs also do happen within that are more smaller groups. And our diversity peer educators as well have been doing a lot of take two events. So I'd encourage your students to look around their residential hall or in happenings to look out for those events where there may be a meetup point where you're going together to an event. So that may be going to a Spectrum Center event or a Center for Campus Involvement to event with other people in their community that they may have seen in the dining hall or on their floor, but may not have been able to make that connection. And there's a little bit of support to not go alone to some of those campus events. And hopefully maybe fostering those connections can lead to some other engagement opportunities. And although it may be stressful or bring up some anxiety for your student to go to a multicultural council meeting. Those are also kind of a smaller group of, 8 to 12 students, perhaps, depending on the community, and a way that they can already have a shared interest in, gaining leadership skills, gaining connections, and a good pathway to forming those connections that can then carry on across campus. And also just a little bit of a shout out to some of our other colleagues across the university, that there is also support in wellness coaching through the Wellbeing Collective and Wolverine Wellness. If students would like to maybe talk through some wellness coaching, they're not trained therapists necessarily, but we also have counseling services as well. If it extends a little bit beyond some of that social anxiety, there are a lot of other resources to help students navigate some of these experiences. So best of luck.
I definitely want to ditto what Elizabeth said. I used to work at counseling services, and They offer so many phenomenal groups. One particularly called Understanding Self and Others, another that is specifically focused on social anxiety, and all of them really tap into stress, right? So I definitely want to echo and ditto what Elizabeth said about those services. Um, at the Spectrum Center, there's so many of our programs that are peer mentored, peer led, right? So like our fresh perspectives, our community connections. We do offer quite a few of our events virtually and or hybrid. And I think that there's something to like, if you're shy, hopping onto an event online, you can keep your camera off. But I think seeing, oh, look at all these other students, they have questions like me. Hmm. And that really does bring some like relief and then some like courage to come into our office. And when people come into our office, we're like, hello, welcome. Who are you? What are you studying? What do you need? Do you want to play on the Switch? Like, do you want a snack? We always have snacks. So I think even attending virtually, again, no requirements to have your camera on, but seeing that like you are not alone, I think really encourages people to come into our office.
All great information. Someone entered a question that has a slight twist to it. So I just want to take a second and invite if any of the speakers would like to say more about this getting connected idea, especially for first year transfer students. So students who come to Michigan with college experience already, but as a transfer, most often live off campus to start. Is there anything you would add about making sure they're aware of how to find opportunities or where to go?
Yeah, I can go ahead and jump in on this. I was a transfer student about, I don't know, 4 years ago to the same institution, finishing up my undergrad, and it can be difficult, right? And so being able to do these little bits that all of our panelists have been talking about, whether that's, a virtual event to coming in for a drop-in session at the connector or hanging out with us at the Center for Campus Involvement, it's a great way to just slowly start making your pathway. But one thing I will say is that have your student also go through those maze pages. There is a lot of information and a lot of different levels that you could filter, as well as in, I believe, the School of LSA, there is a non-traditional student caregiver group, I believe. NCT, I always mess up the acronym, but thank you, Nicole. That is an amazing resource that will connect you all across the board. The last thing I will say, Beyond the Diag has amazing resources. Please follow their Instagram because they reach out to all of our off-campus students and can connect you right there.
Thank you. Those are all the questions we have about tonight's topic. Rachel has answered the question about um, finding the YouTube channel, and we'll be sure to address the question that was submitted about housing on campus, which is from another session. We'll give that person some information. All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much. So if you notice, I just put the YouTube channel in the chat and also the website for Beyond the Diag, which Hope just mentioned. I'm just going to reiterate that checking the maze pages and having your student look into things that they are already interested in. For instance, I was working recently with a student who was a transfer student, was very nervous about finding their people, finding friends, connecting. And so they told me that they found the Paws Club, which is a club that volunteers at the Humane Society and works with animals. And they said to me, I knew even if I couldn't like find my person there, I could just pet a dog and I miss my dog. And so that was a great way for them to connect. And they did meet some friends through that club. So I just encourage you to have your student play to their strengths and their interests. There are so many things across campus. As Hope mentioned, there are 1,700 student orgs, so there is something for everyone. So that's my plug for Maze Pages and student orgs. But we are now at time, so I thank you all for joining us tonight. Any questions that weren't answered, we will answer and get you information. Please visit our YouTube channel, and we thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. Take care.